Morning Exercises, July 11th. And he arose and did eat and drink, and went in the strength of that meat 40 days and 40 nights, unto Horeb, the mount of God. 1 Kings 19:8. Having on Mount Carmel witnessed the triumph of truth over idolatry, and destroyed Baal's prophets, and predicted the return of rain, and urged the king to hasten home, lest he should be impeded by the approaching torrents, Elijah girded up his loins and ran before Ahab to the entrance of Jezreel. Had Ahab properly regarded Elijah, he would have taken him up into his chariot, as the eunuch did Philip, and have honored him before his attendants, and conversed with him respecting the awful state of the country. But he did not cordially like him, and was happy to get rid of him as soon as possible, as Felix said unto Paul, Go thy way for this time, when I have a convenient season I will call for thee. But we admire the conduct of Elijah. He was not elated by the recent unparalleled honors conferred upon him above the duty of a subject, and therefore, notwithstanding the character of Ahab, he pays respect to him as a sovereign, and renders honor to whom honor was officially due. It is probable that Elijah came to Jezreel to carry on the reformation he had begun, and hoping that the late miracle would give him a powerful influence. But soon after he arrives in the suburbs, he learns the determination, not of the queen consort, but of the queen regent, for Ahab, though king, was completely governed by a termagant wife, to put him to death. And Ahab told Jezebel all that Elijah had done, and withal how he had slain all the prophets with the sword. Then Jezebel sent a messenger to Elijah, saying, So let the gods do unto me, and more also, if I make not thy life as the life of one of them by tomorrow about this time. Upon this he should have stood his ground, and have resolved to go on with his work, leaving events with God, and relying upon the providence and grace which had so signally appeared for him. He should have replied as Chrysostom did when Eudoxia the empress threatened him, Go tell her that I fear nothing but sin. Or as Basil did when Valerius the Arian emperor sent him word that he would put him to death. I would that he would, I shall only get to heaven sooner. Or as Luther did when they would have dissuaded him from going to Worms. I would go if there were as many devils there as there are tiles upon the houses. Or as the Prince of Conde did to the French king when he proposed that he should go to Mass, or suffer perpetual banishment or death. As to the first of these, by the grace of God I never will, and as to the other two, I have the choice of either to your majesty. But where is the faith that never staggers through unbelief, the hand that never hangs down, the knee that never trembles? We are amazed at the magnanimity of Elijah before, in reproving Ahab to his face, opposing single-handed all the followers of Baal, and slaying Jezebel's 450 chaplains. But what is man? He cannot stand longer than God holds him, or walk further than God leads him. This same hero now turns pale and flees for his life. And when he saw that he arose and went for his life, and came to Beersheba, which belongeth to Judah, and left his servant there. And why did he leave him? Was it from tenderness, wishing to save him from the perils to which he himself was exposed? Or was it the more perfectly to conceal his movements, as one could be more easily hid than more? Or did he wish for unrestrained, unwitnessed intercourse with God? There are seasons and places in which we wish no eye to see, no ear to hear, but God to be all in all. Abraham left his young men below when he ascended to worship God. And Jesus said to Peter, James, and John in the garden, "Tarry ye here while I go and pray yonder." However this was, he went a day's journey into the wilderness, and came and sat down under a juniper tree. And fatigued with journeying and hunger, and harassed with forebodings, and despairing of further success in his exertions, he asked to resign not only his office but his life. He requested for himself that he might die, and said, "It is enough. Now, O Lord, take away my life, for I am not better than my fathers. That is, I am not fitter to bear their trials or discharge their duties than they were. Why then should I remain where they are removed? I have done and suffered my share." This was the language of nature, not of grace. Children grow fretful as they grow sleepy. Paul longed to depart to be with Christ, which was far better, yet he was willing to abide in the flesh because it was needful for others. While we are ready to go, we must also be willing to stay if God has anything for us to do or to suffer. To be impatient for retreat, especially as soon as we meet with disappointment, is unmanly and sinful. Though Elijah was forward to die, it was a peevish haste, and evinced that he was in a very improper frame for the event. But God remembered that he was dust, compassionated his weakness, and appeared for him, even in a strait of his own producing, and dealt not with him after his desert. And he lay and slept under a juniper tree. Behold, then an angel touched him and said unto him, "Arise and eat." And he looked, and behold, there was a cake, baken on the coals, and a cruse of water at his head. And he did eat and drink, and laid him down again. Before he had fed him by ravens, now he supplies him by one of those heavenly messengers who are all ministering spirits unto the heirs of salvation. The office seems beneath one of these glorious beings, but he was as much pleased to bring a meal to this weary traveler as he would have been had he received orders to manage the affairs of an empire. Angels have no partialities. They consider not the nature of the command, but only the author. May his will be done on earth as it is done in heaven. But what was the meal? A cake of bread and a cruse of water. Nature is content with little, and grace with less. How many disorders arise from excess! A voracious appetite is a judgment, a delicate one is an infirmity, a dainty one is a disgrace. Ministers above all men should not be given to appetite, or be fond of dainty meats, and those who entertain them should not insult them by the nature and the degree of their preparations. Did our Saviour require much serving? Did not he reprove Martha for being cumbered about many things? When an angel was the guest, Abraham brought him forth a cake baked on the hearth with butter and milk. And when an angel, who had the command of every store, catered for the greatest and best man of the age, it was a cake of bread and a cruse of water. But the angel of the Lord came again the second time, and touched him, and said, Arise and eat, because the journey is too great for thee. God's caring for his people is not only relieving, but prospective. He foresees what they will need, and prepares them for difficulties and duties which they had not reckoned upon. He strengthens the shoulder when the burden is going to be increased, and when he gives them an additional supply of faith, hope, peace, and joy, little perhaps do they imagine what trials they are to endure, or what steps they are to take in the strength of it. But how was Elijah fitted for his journey? Surely the sustenance derived from this meal was miraculous, but it shows us what his power can do, and teaches us that man liveth not by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. And he arose and did eat and drink, and went in the strength of that meat 40 days and 40 nights, unto Horeb the mount of God. And why did he choose to repair hither? Would no other place have afforded him an equally safe retreat? Was he actuated by curiosity or piety? Here was much to strike his mind and to aid his faith and devotion. Here would he say, Israel encamped. Here fell the manna. Here moved and here stood the fiery, cloudy pillar. On the top of this hill God spoke all the words of his law, and there God spoke with Moses face to face. How much is connected with some spots! They are none other but the house of God and the gate of heaven.